season of ADAC GT Masters. Brilliant driving. It's phenomenal stuff. It's the dawn of a new era in the 18th season of the ADAC GT Masters, day 2 of round 1 in the League of the Super Sports Cars. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a glorious, hot and sunny Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. There's a crowd of something like 42,000 people squeezed in here today. We've just witnessed an amazing DTM race. We're about to witness an amazing GT Masters race. You can see the air temperature, 23.3 degrees centigrade. The track's at 20.7. It means it's a perfect day for a spot of GT3 racing. And in this, the start of a new era for the ADAC GT Masters, the road to DTM. The ADAC have been working hard over the winter months to reformat the series, very much aligned towards young drivers and ambitious amateurs. From here, we're really expecting it to grow and grow. It is still 6 rounds in 12 races in 4 countries. We're alongside the DTM for 8 of those races, but we return to the legendary Spa-Francorchamps after 9 years. Last time we were there was in 2015. We're also going to be at the Nürburgring. That'll be for round 3. Round 4 will be Spa. Both of those races are now going to be endurance races. The weekend will be made up of a 40-minute race and an 80-minute race with 2 pit stops. We'll tell you more about that as the season progresses, because we are getting ready to start this, which is race 2 of the season. You've already seen David Schumacher. He is our pole sitter. You've also seen there Tom Callender, the youngest driver ever to race in the ADAC GT Masters. And yesterday, along with his co-pilot, who is just by coincidence the defending champion of the ADAC GT Masters, finished 2nd. A very mature drive. This field is made up of a number of young chargers, none more so than Alexander Fack. He's in the Pro-Am category in this race, a new category introduced for this year. But that man there, car number 54, Leon Köhler, he brought the car home, but it was his teammate Max Osten who put it on pole position and led the first half of the race. It was a fairly dominant display, but they've got a bit of work to do today because they're down on row 4 of the grids. Leon Köhler, who's more used to driving Porsches. He has briefly driven BMWs, but he's raced Porsches most of his life. And he's going to have to work his way through from mid-order as he fights his way past these young chargers. It's a lovely grid of cars lining up here at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. Very shortly, we are going to be getting ready for an hour plus 1 lap of racing. Jonas Greif, if you follow Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany, you'd recognize his name as a former competitor in that. And there's Pablo Schum. He's picked up a grid penalty after qualifying this morning, but his team boss, Luca Engstler, well, he might not be quite as focused on this race because we've just witnessed him winning his first ever race in the DTM just a few moments ago. Alongside me is the voice of DTM. The emotions are flowing in the Engstler garage at the moment.
Yeah, fantastic effort from Luca Engstler to get his first win in DTM in what's only the start of his 2nd season in the category. But focus now turns to GT Masters. The 1-minute board held aloft, and in his first weekend in GT Masters, David Schumacher having had good points yesterday, but a bit frustrating not to be able to get through the pack a little bit more. He was stuck in a train of cars, but still scored good points. Couldn't get through and onto the podium. However, he's got a good chance of getting a first podium now because qualified on pole position, albeit only by 31 thousandths of a second with Tom Callender, the 16-year-old who got the podium yesterday, was almost on pole position. We've had some overnight changes to BOP weight as well, so the Aston's 10 kilograms lighter. They struggled a little bit in the race yesterday. The Mercedes 15 kilograms lighter, and it's Mercedes 1, 2, 3 on the grid for this one as well, so might be difficult to usurp. And then also the Porsche with a change of 15 kilograms added on.
So the cars lined up in the Le Mans style. They don't start the race like that, I'm afraid, but it's going to be a rolling start now. The indication is given as David Schumacher leads Tom Callender around. A lot of pressure on his young shoulders. He's one of 3 drivers in this race who this time last year win the ADAC Junior Formula 4 team. That's quite a step up into GT3 racing. The ADAC, with their ladder, their road to DTM, promoting the young talent along beside the experience. And David Schumacher in the number 2 car, he is sharing driving duties with another of the defending champions, and that is Salman Vega, who will be driving that car as well this afternoon. It is David Schumacher on pole position with the young 16-year-old Tom Callender, 17-year-old Tom Callender alongside another young driver, Finn Wiebelhaus, Benjamin Heitz, a former winner in the ADAC GT Masters. Jean-Luc Doria had his birthday on Friday. Happy birthday to you. Lines up alongside Alex Fack. Then it's Leo Köhler, yesterday's winner, and Dennis Bulatov, second place in last year's GT4 championship. Max Rice and Johannes Kapfinger, one of the Kapfinger twins, lining up on row 5. Yannick Julius Bernhardt didn't get a drive yesterday. Gregory de Cyborg did. Chandler Hull and Jonas Greif on row 7. And then bringing up the rear with that grid penalty, it's Pablo Schum in the Enxler Audi. The car's now out on the back straight towards turn 11 on the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. There is the point situation. Leon Köhler, Max Osten, 28 points on account of 25 for the win and 3 for the pole position yesterday. Callender, Seppänen, Mokoena and Rice not far behind. This track, which is 3.667 kilometers around, that's a little over 2.2 miles. It has 14 turns, 7 to the left and 7 to the right. Overtaking a little bit tricky around here. Not lots of opportunities. The best places probably into turn 1 and into turn 11. The start of the race, a great opportunity to pick up a whole load of places, a great opportunity to end it all in the gravel trap. Let's hope we're not going to see that. The 5 red lights are on. We are ready for race 2 of the season, ADAC GT Masters, and a great start from David Schumacher leading the field in towards turn 1. Tom Callender getting mugged by Finn Wiebelhaus. We've been told to look out for him. He's been so dominant during the winter series. He's up into second place. Benjamin Heitz is there as well in the Lamborghini. The rest of the cars filing around that tricky turn 2. That's Jean-Luc Doria going wide in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari in towards Hasseröder. That is turn 3. A little bit of banking on that corner. And they're all on the track, pointing in the right direction. David Schumacher leading the way. Car 14 under investigation for a false start. So Jean-Luc Doria already under investigation by the stewards, potentially not passing through his grid box when he received the green light. But David Schumacher did what he needed to do. Finn Wiebelhaus did what he needed to do, and he got past Tom Callender and into second place.
Let's look at the blue and orange Lamborghini of Benjamin Heitz, which was actually off the line really well. Benjamin just couldn't find a way through the Mercedes, though, despite that good start. He's fallen off them later on in the lap, and he's now, this is the rear-facing camera from Heitz, he's having to fend off this white Porsche of Alex Fack. Alex did a good job with his co-driver of the team yesterday to come from the back of the field to finish in 8th place. So he's having to fend off a whole train of cars. We've also got Leon Köhler in the number 54 BMW, just behind the pair of them. Race winner yesterday, but having to come from further back in this one. Flashing the headlights now at the end of lap 1 is the white Porsche of Alex Fack in 5th place. No way through though as they hit the brakes and go left through turn 1. Slow the cars right down into this tight right-hander at turn 2, which has been catching them all out this weekend.
Alex Fack to the inside of Benjamin Heitz. He's Alex Fack, who was a winner in Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup last year. A very competitive driver. Drives for his dad's team, Fack Auto Tech. Didn't quite make it stick on Benjamin Heitz, but Leo Köhler in the background as well. That BMW has proven to be very quick. You can see a little bit of damage to the Benjamin Heitz Lamborghini. Leo Köhler is carrying an extra 20 kilos on account of the fact that he won the race pace yesterday. Doesn't seem to be slowing him down too much. Callender has an extra 10 kilos, and Max Rice has an extra 5 kilos because he finished in 3rd place. But yes, looking like a little bit of damage to the number 63 GRT Grasser Racing Lamborghini.
It's really important for ITs to keep this group behind him and try and stay on terms with the 3 Mercedes, because yesterday, Benjamin, who got into the car second, was really quick. The trouble was he was a lap down, but he was hanging on to the race-leading car. The reason he was a lap down was because Tim Zimmerman picked up a puncture early in the race, but Tim, his teammate's quick around here as well. Was a winner here at Oschersleben last year. Replay of the start then, all very tight. Great start from Finn Wiebelhaus, lunging through that first 2 turns to get the light grey Mercedes up into 2nd place. Tom Callender dropping right behind him down into 3rd. And as I say, it was a good start from ITs initially off the line. This is what it looked like from behind. Then it all continues up. He can't find a way past the Mercedes, so then he has Alex Fack's Porsche literally breathing down his neck and then giving him a little tap on the shoulder as well.
Have some of that, he says. That might explain why part of the car is hanging off, mightn't it? Alex Fack are never too scared to get stuck in. There are 3 Mercedes leading the way. The first 2 are teammates for HRT, Hout Racing. The one in 3rd place with Tom Callender at the wheel is for Landgraf Motorsport. That was a replay again of Jean-Luc Deoria going wide out of turn 2. This is a view from Dennis Bulatov. A mixed day in the Aston Martin, along with Mike David Altman, his co-driver, Volkenhorst Motorsport, getting used to the Aston Martin. They're a team that have switched to that for this year. And there's Pablo Schum. He had a bit of a moment in the opening lap as well. The Audi pointing in the wrong direction. He was at the back already, but it looks like it's a bit of a long afternoon for him and his co-driver, Jonas Karklees. That's assuming we can get this car to the pit stop, because it looks to me as though maybe there's an issue with that, or maybe he just outbraked himself.
It's really tricky, that 2nd corner. Penalty lap for a full start for Doria in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari. But a great day yesterday in DTM with victory for Jack Aitken. But I've had a terrible day today in the DTM with 2 retirements. Crashes. So penalty lap for a full start as well for the number 5 car of Max Rice, the Mercedes running at the moment in 10th place. They've been busy, the stewards, taking a look at that. But yeah, just to go back to turn 2, they go through turn 1. They approach that before they hit the brakes at 240 kilometres an hour through the left-hander at turn 1. They're still actually turning through that corner as they hit the brakes for turn 2 and slow down to 2nd gear. And already taking that run through the penalty box is the Ferrari, which will cost him about 5 seconds.
The penalty box painted on the tracks, about 200 metres long. It's on the exit of turn 3, and he has to pass through it at no more than 50 kilometres an hour. It's not as bad as a drive-through penalty, but it's pretty bad. Very significant that Max Rice should be getting a visit as well, because he finished in 3rd place along with Kwanda Mokoena yesterday. So that false start for car number 5 as well. He couldn't do it on that lap because there was a car in the box already. He won't be able to pass the start-finish line many more times without taking it, otherwise he'll pick up a further penalty. So this time around we would expect to see the number 5 car heading into the penalty box. The first 3 have broken away. David Schumacher leading the way from Finn Wiebelhaus, Tom Callender in 3rd place, then Benjamin Heites just a little bit back, about 1.7 seconds. Alex Fack there as well, the only Pro-Am driver in the field ahead of Leon Köhler, Dennis Bulatov, Johannes Kapfinger, and then Max Rice, the driver who has that penalty lap. Right, let's have a look here. Car number 5, has he taken that penalty lap? No, he hasn't yet. He's going to need to take that soon. Behind him is Gregory de Cyborg. Here we go. There is your graphic to indicate that. The hazard lights are flashing. That tells everybody else is slowing down through the penalty box. That 200 metres will feel like 200 miles to him, but he finally is able to get onto the accelerator. So he's lost a couple of positions. He joins behind the other driver that took the penalty lap, and that was Jean-Luc Deoria. He was in 14th place, in 11th place, so he is now promoted to 10th, and it's 11th place that goes to Tom Callender.
Meanwhile, in 4th place, the Lamborghini of Benjamin Heites, the driver from Chile, sets the new fastest lap of the race, 124.7. He was a 10th quicker than Tom Callender in 3rd, but there was also a 124.7, half a tenth slower than the best lap from Finn Wiebelhaus, which means he's caught up by about 0.2 of a second to the back of David Schumacher. As you can see, the gap's concertinaing up. The Lamborghini's a little bit off them, but you can see that he's eased himself away now from Alex Fack's Porsche as they complete another lap. There is the number 91 Hughes Porsche, driven at the start of this race by Johannes Kapfinger. Had a big crash in free practice on Friday. Lots of damage to the car, but he and his brother Michael drove really well yesterday to get that Porsche into 5th place, and he's trying to work his way up through the order at the moment, running in the Porsche in 8th place, de Seiberg in 9th place. Looking forward to seeing what Eduardo Cosseteng can do when he gets into that second BMW, because he was spectacular yesterday, pulled off some really good moves, the Filipino driver, on what's the start of his 2nd season. De Seiberg didn't have a very enjoyable stint. He went off the road a couple of times and then also picked up a puncture, which put the BMW out of the race. But when Cosseteng was driving it early on, it was running in 2nd place.
Yes, a steep learning curve for some of these young drivers. We've got the wisdom and experience of David Schumacher leading the way. He was in DTM this time last year. Then Finn Wiebelhaus and Tom Callender, new to GT3 racing, in 2nd and 3rd. They've broken clear of the more experienced Benjamin Heites in 4th place. There will be a pit window that will open 25 minutes into the race. That window will remain open for 10 minutes, and during that 10-minute window, every car will be required to come into the pit lane for a mandatory stop and driver change. No tyre changes, no refueling, just a driver change. Just to make life interesting, there's also a minimum pit stop time from pit entry to pit exit of 85 seconds. That's for everybody, with the exception of car number 4. The minimum pit stop time for car number 4 is 70 seconds. The reason being, one of the drivers is bronze rated. That's more of an amateur status, so they are required to be stationary for 15 seconds less. We continue to witness Gregory de Seiberg trying to make that BMW as wide as possible. Our drone giving us some wonderful shots as we whiz past the penalty box once again. But Jean-Luc Deoria in the number 14 Emil Frey racing car, having visited that penalty box, now trying to make up for lost time and find a way past the BMW in front.
Yeah, Jean-Luc Deoria in the Ferrari, a bit wound up after the rough start he had to the race on the grass, and then got a penalty for the full start, had to go through the penalty box, but a quick driver, finished 4th in the Italian GT Championship, and previously, before coming into GT Masters, and he's trying to get past that BMW, which is driven by de Seiberg, who is the grandson of Joe Siffert, who won 2 Formula 1 Grand Prix. The late Joe Siffert, sadly killed in a racing accident at Brands Hatch. He was the winner of the British Grand Prix, which was held at Brands Hatch in the early 1970s, and he's renowned as the last true privateer to win a Grand Prix, a Formula 1 race, when he won for Rob Walker's Lotus team. It's a great family history there. His grandson in the BMW, though, isn't thinking about that at the moment. He's just thinking about this Ferrari, which is absolutely breathing down his neck at the moment. The battle for 9th place that you are watching. Meanwhile, still David Schumacher continuing to look fairly comfortable up front. A second ahead there. The door opens up, the BMW too wide through the right-hander at turn 2, and in the end, it was fairly easy pickings for Doria. So the Ferrari back up to 9th place.
Next up the road will be the Porsche of Johannes Kapfinger, the yellow and blue car, which has been entertaining us all weekend long. You'll see a picture and a graphic on the bonnet of that Porsche. It is of Gerhard Freundorfer, and we just want to mention him. He was the team manager of Proton Huber competition. He died on the 9th of April in an accident in Barcelona, and everybody from the ADAC just sends loads of love to his wife, Carola, his family, and to everybody at Proton Huber competition. It has been a really, really tough time for them, and it would be just lovely if the Kapfinger twins could bring that car home with some good points. You can just see it on the bonnet of that Porsche as he comes through. David Schumacher not exactly disappearing off into the distance, and all credit to Finn Wiebelhaus, who's keeping him honest, as we have another look from the perspective of Jean-Luc Deoria. Ahead of him, Gregory de Seiberg, fairly new to GT3 racing, and the experience of Jean-Luc Deoria just sees that gap on the inside as Disciple just outbrakes himself, goes deep into turn 2. It's a corner that is universally loathed by most drivers because it is so difficult to get a quick line round there. But that was the only opportunity that the number 14 Emil Frey Racing Ferrari needed. We welcome Ferrari back to the grid of the ADAC GT Masters in 2024, as indeed is the case for Aston Martin. Great to see the manufacturers getting behind this legendary series.
Schumacher leads then, relatively new to GT racing. A couple of seasons in the DTM, as you mentioned, various points finishes in that, but some frustrations as well. But what a tough field in which to learn your trade as a GT driver. But also had some good results in the GT Challenge, GT World Challenge Europe. So Schumacher getting better and better in these cars, having really spent most of his racing career as a single-seater driver. Prior to that, got all the way up to the heights of the FIA Formula 3 Championship, just a couple of runs down on the ladder from Formula 1, was a race winner in that back in 2021. But Schumacher proving to be a pretty adept GT driver and leading nicely here. He's grown that gap out from a second to 1.5 seconds over the last couple of laps of the race, helped by the fact that last time around did the fastest lap of the race, 1:24.4. It does a 1:24.8 this time, not quite as good, but still better than Wiebelhaus in second place. Better than both of them on that lap, though, was Callender in third. You can see that gap from second to third coming down a bit. So Tom Callender in that copper-coloured and white #1 Landgraf car, closing the gap now.
I'll focus on the battle for fourth place. Benjamin Heites, we saw him and Alex Fack getting together earlier on in the race. Well, Benjamin Heites has been shown the black and white flag for forcing car 4 off the track in turn 3. A black and white flag, it's a warning from the race stewards. It says, hey, we're watching you. If you get 3 black and white flags during the season, you may well pick up a grid penalty. So he needs to be careful. Alex Fack, he's not done yet, is he? He wants to move that car as far forward as possible. His teammate, his bronze-rated teammate Alexander Schwarzer will be taking over that car after the pit stop. I expect Alex Fack will want to stay in for as long as possible. He's the more experienced of the 2 drivers, and he'll want to get as far forward as possible before he heads into the pits. Benjamin Heites, he's sharing driving duties with Tim Zimmermann, another very experienced driver who will be in the seat of the number 63 car. And 11th place yesterday, some very bad luck meant that they didn't score the points that they felt they were due, so in a much better position here in this race. One driver who we didn't see yesterday is the car that's currently in 12th place, making his debut in the ADAC GT Masters, Yannick Julius Bernhardt. And we say hello, welcome to the GT Masters. Yesterday, his co-driver Taylor Hagler having a mechanical failure, and Yannick didn't even get a go in the seat of that car. So enjoying his debut this afternoon in the ADAC GT Masters, currently running in 12th place.
Good lap from the second place Mercedes of Finn Wiebelhaus last time around. A personal best lap, a couple of tenths quicker than the race leader David Schumacher. 1:24.5 versus 1:24.7, so the gap reduced to just over 1.3 seconds. Still a bit of bodywork hanging off the right rear corner of the Lamborghini is Benjamin Heites, 2 times a winner in last year's GT Masters Championship. Teammate Tim Zimmermann won a race as well. That was here at Oschersleben. Alex Fack, though, keeping him honest in the first of the Porsches. Just about 5/10 of a second between them. Then a little bit of a gap back to the BMW of yesterday's race winner, Leon Kohler, who's got the driver that's been the quickest of all drivers so far this weekend to come, because having had 2 weekends and 3 races in the GT Masters Championship with a guest drive with Bruno Spengler last year, Max Osten was victorious again yesterday alongside Leon Kohler in that number 54 BMW, the tall Dutch driver, former BMW M2 Cup champion. We were forced to be reckoned with in the second half of the race, because when he was in the car, he led by 15 seconds and it took him about 20 minutes to build that up, so he was about 3/4 of a lap per second quicker than anybody else during his stint.
Yes, Max Osten up until this afternoon has taken part in 3 ADAC GT Masters races. He's won 2 of them. There we go. Need I say any more? He'll be itching to get into the seat of that car. And he's in the pits at the moment, waiting for his co-driver, Leon Köhler, who is doing a sterling job in 6th place. Ahead of him, Alex Fack. And if you were at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix last year, you would have seen Alex Fack winning in the Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup race. It was a wonderful result for him. He's been in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany for a few years and has now taken the step into GT Masters, just moving his way in the world of motorsport. Ahead of him still, Benjamin Heites. Doesn't really have an answer for him at the moment, but it's still early days. We've still got just over 8 minutes until the pit window opens. That's when the strategy starts to come into this. The team will decide whether to call the driver in early or later. The teams will want to maximise the time that their quickest driver has in the car. Johannes Kapfinger has been quick all weekend, as indeed has his brother Michael Kapfinger. As we look down the pit straight towards turn 1, there is Johannes Kapfinger behind Denis Bulatov, the driver who finished 2nd in the ADAC GT4 Germany Championship last year, steps up to GT3 along with the reigning GT4 champion Mike David Ortmann. But at the moment, that Porsche is looking very dialed in. The Team U Sportwagen Technique crew, who had to rebuild that car on Friday night, they've done a pretty good job, and he is looking very eager as he moves forwards from his 8th place.
Yeah, that Volkenhorst Motorsport Run Aston Martin looks fantastic, doesn't it, in the black and gold livery, but the cars have struggled a bit around this circuit configuration, so just damage limitation really. Bulatov at the moment having his work cut out really to keep that used Porsche of Kapfinger behind him in this battle for 7th place. I was looking at the gap comparison as well from Heites in the Lamborghini to Fack in the Porsche. 3 laps running, Fack closed the gap, but it was by thousandths of a second. 30 thousandths here, 40 thousandths there, and then on that last lap, a 10th quicker was Heites. So all that good work undone, just chipping away at the advantage, and Heites puts a good lap in and pulls it all back out. On board then with Johannes Kapfinger, great onboard camera shots looking at the driver first, then looking out of the windscreen as he looks ahead. But Bulatov gets a good run, doesn't he, in the Aston Martin coming out of the final corner, so he's not going to be close enough to attack at the start of the lap into this big braking zone for turns 1 and then particularly turn 2, where they drop down to 2nd gear, just about 95 kilometres an hour.
Spoke to Bulatov's co-driver Mike David Ortmann earlier on today, and he said they really extracted as much as they can out of the Aston Martin, but it is very much a learning experience for Volkenhorst, who have switched to that brand for this year, and they're learning the car, learning what makes it go, and Denis Bulatov also learning the ropes in GT3 racing at the same time. But they were reasonably happy with where they finished yesterday, but want to be championship contenders, so clearly want to move forward from that 7th place. At the moment, doing a good job keeping Kapfinger behind them. Leon Köhler up the road. Finn Wiebelhaus has taken a couple of tenths out of David Schumacher's lead. Tom Callender is there as well in that 3rd place. Those 3 very close together on the tracks, about half a second between Wiebelhaus and Callender, but about 1.2 between our race leader David Schumacher and Finn Wiebelhaus.
Yeah, and 40 minutes of the race remaining, so we're edging towards that pit window opening. Just 10 minutes the pit window is open. They've all got to come in and make their mandatory stop. If you've got a driver that's going, I want to leave that driver out for as long as possible, of course, but you also have to be flexible with your strategy just in case circumstances change. You feel like you've been held up by another driver ahead, maybe you come in a bit earlier than you wanted to, or if they come in, maybe you stay out a bit later. You'll be looking at what the other pit crews are doing and trying to respond to them. Here are the top 3 Mercedes then. 1, 2, 3 for them at the moment. Schumacher, Wiebelhaus and Callender. Heites leads the next trio of cars because Fack has been sort of reeled in a little bit by Leon Köhler, hasn't he, that BMW? So 4th, 5th and 6th more or less together. 7th and 8th definitely together, and I'm afraid it's another spin for the Audi, proper spin this time, and sorry, it's Chandler Hull in the Aston Martin, similar livery, and oh dear, on the other side of the circuit now in a bit of a precarious position, swaps back end there, under braking, clips the inside curb through turn 1, and Chandler tries to save it, lights up the tyres, but pointing in the wrong direction. Then we'll flip the back end around, but stranded when we last saw the car, that Aston Martin on the inside of the corner in a pretty precarious position. So yellow flags at the moment in turn 2. The race leader coming up to that shortly is just about to go over the start-finish line.
Finn Wiebelhaus has taken another couple of tenths out of David Schumacher's lead, down to about a second now. But if that car can't move, we're going to see a full course yellow or maybe even a safety car.
Got going again.
But he has got going now, has he? So that's good news. It means the race can continue. And David Schumacher will be pleased because he needs that second gap between himself and Finn Wiebelhaus in second place. Looking down the pit straight at the moment is Max Rice, who had that visit to the penalty box. He's now behind Gregory de Cyborg. Cyborg in 10th place, Max Rice in 11th. They're well ahead of Yannick Julius Bernhardt in 12th place, but Max Rice will be kicking himself for that false start. We want to make as much progress as possible before he hands the car over to Kwanda Mokoena, the South African driver who did so well yesterday. To remind you, the two of them finished in 3rd place in yesterday's race. Now closing in on Gregory de Cyborg, but that BMW is pretty wide, pretty powerful, pretty difficult to get past.
Yeah, they were 3rd from 9th on the grid as well. It's a really good effort from both drivers. Kwanda Mokoena was really having to fight and dig deep in the opening laps. Had a couple of battles, had a couple of wheels on the grass at times as well, but held it together. You can see second drivers now starting to get ready. So Alex Fack, that's his teammate. Alex is in currently 5th place in that white number 4 Porsche. That's Alexander Schwerzer starting to get ready, but you'd suspect that Alex Fack will probably hold on to that Porsche as long as he can in this first stint.
Yes, the silver-rated driver. Of course, all drivers have an FIA rating depending on their experience, their success, whether they're professional or amateur. Most of the drivers in this field are silver, but Alexander Schwarzer being a bronze-rated driver, it means he's an amateur driver, but it does mean that he has the advantage, along with his teammate, of having that 15-second shorter pit stop. So currently with the car in 5th place, they're in a good position, about 4.8 seconds back from the leaders. So after the pit stop sequence, they should be in a very strong position to challenge at the front. Is that the Aston Martin? It is. It's Denis Bulatov getting it wrong on the horrific turn 2, outbraking himself, picking up a bit of curb, going wide, keeps it out of the gravel, but you can see him just soaring the wheel and eyes wide, get it back on the track as quick as possible, get the tyres scrubbed clean and try to forget all about that moment.
So easy to carry too much speed into turn 2, just a fraction under 240 kilometres now. You turn left, but you're still turning the car left as you brake and then flick it right, so the back end unsettles. You miss that apex of that corner, that right-hander, by just a couple of centimetres. It's so dusty offline, so slippery off the line that the car just understeers. Understeering meaning that you turn the wheel, the front wheel, the steering wheel, and it just doesn't react to what you want to do until too late, by which time you have drifted off the road and onto the grass. So Bulatov has carried on again, got going, but he has now dropped from 7th down to 9th place, Denis Bulatov in the number 34 Aston. Capfinger up to 7th then, and Doria in the Ferrari moving ahead as well, up to 8th place for Emil Frey Racing.
Look at this. Finn Wiebelhaus has taken about half a second out of David Schumacher's lead as the other drivers come out ready for that pit change, for the driver change and the mandatory stop. But Finn Wiebelhaus now just 0.6 of a second behind David Schumacher. Wiebelhaus, who has been so strong over the winter in the GT Winter Series, winning pretty well everything that he entered. Now the pit window is open. I would expect that David Schumacher and Finn Wiebelhaus will want to stay out. Now Schumacher almost moved to one side. They are teammates. They're running for the same team, i.e. they're both in Hout Racing, but it looked to me that Schumacher, has he got a problem? Because suddenly he's falling into the clutches of Tom Callender. He ducks off into the pits, but it did look to me as though it suddenly lost a bit of pace.
Yeah, so in he comes, darts straight in, but yeah, he was...
slowed early, didn't he?
Slowed a bit early, so whether it was an issue or, I don't know, he was just backing off, I don't know, but in he comes. We'll see what happens now, if there's any discussion in and around the whole. Aston Martin comes in. The former race-leading Mercedes, the one of Schumacher comes in as well. And there, yesterday's race-winning car, Leon Kohler, is about to hand over to the mighty Max Osten. So that could be lively as well, but they've all got the same minimum pit stop time.
And that, of course, is with the exception of car number 4, who will have the luxury of being able to stay in the pits for 15 seconds less. Right, David Schumacher comes to a stop. Oh, this is not looking good, is it? There's no Salmon Vega rushing out to get in the seat of that car. Clearly, there is an issue. Looks to me like the number 2 car is about to be retired from the race. There is Salmon Vega, not suited and booted, and he is not going to get a drive this afternoon. That is a bit of a tragedy to go with their 6th place of yesterday. It's going to be a non-finish. David Schumacher just walking back to the garage. He'll want to get away from everybody and just have a think about that, but that's not the debut in GT Masters that he was expecting.
A brave camera operator here following David down. Real shame, because he was driving really well, wasn't he? And yeah, you can see the car just suddenly slowed. Here's a replay of when it happened, then down the back straight on the running to turn 11. He knew it had gone. He moved out of the way of his teammate, tucked in behind. And then I did wonder for a moment if he's let him through on purpose, as you said, Brian, and then trying to back up the other car, but that did not happen. Aston Martin released then, so Nico Hanke in the number 35 Aston now, which was driven at the start of the race by Chandler Hull, had that off, as we saw at this corner at turn 2. This is where they filter back in from the pit lane, so 7.5 minutes to go in the pit window. Finn Wiebelhaus in the number 3 Mercedes, now the leader by 1.1 seconds, so he's dropped Tom Callender on this last lap. Did a 125.1. In fact, on the last lap, the gap closed a bit again. Callender was further away than that, but 1.1 seconds. Now Max Osten about to go out, and the number 5 Mercedes of Max Rice comes in. So he is now about, this is the car that was on the podium from 9th on the grid yesterday, about to hand over to his teammate, the South African Kwando Mokoena, about to get in after his first podium in GT Masters. Did half a season last season, and the two teammates swap hands now. They did a really good job yesterday. If they can get some more good points today, they'll be delighted with that first weekend as a pairing together. So more pit stops to come. Wiebelhaus, Callender, first and second still to come in, of course, as well. Third is Benjamin Highties now. Tim Zimmerman's going to take over from him. They could still very much be a factor for the win, certainly for a podium now, because that Lamborghini, with the demise of the Schumacher Vega Mercedes, should be, once it all settles down, at least running in 3rd place.
So the pit window starting to bring all the surprises that we expect. There is Max Rice behind the wheel of that Mercedes. He's another of the drivers that was in the F4 ADAC junior team last year, sharing with the South African Kwando Mokoena. He did a handful of races last year for Exler in the Audi. This is something a little bit different. Now the Mercedes bursts. He pulls out of the pit lane and rejoins the race. You saw the number 19 of Yannick Julius Bernhardt just sailing through there as well. Dennis Bulatov into the pits. He's handed over to Mike David Ortmann. So Mike David Ortmann getting strapped in, the 2-time ADAC GT4 Germany champion, now behind the wheel. He is, unbelievably, the most experienced driver in ADAC GT Masters. We've seen him over the years. He's done 61 races up to date, and his best was a 3rd place at the Nürburgring in 2018. At such a young age to be that experienced. There's a frustrated face. Salmon Ovega, the brother of Yusuf and Hamza Ovega, a racing family, but no racing going on for Salmon this afternoon. Clearly mechanical issues pulling that car from the race. On board with Mike David Ortmann in the Vulcan horse-prepared Aston Martin. Welcome to the ADAC GT Masters. Vulcan horse studies stalled it. Oh no, fortunately able to get it going again nice and quickly, but he rejoins. That would have cost a couple of valuable seconds. He's got a speed limit in the pit lane, so he can't just monster it up to the exit line, but we'll see how far he goes over the 0. If you look at the display, +1, 2, 3, so 3.2 seconds that's been surrendered to the cars around him as a result of that pit stop.
Yeah, that's right. So I feel like forever as well, coming down that pit lane with that speed limit and out through that little left-right flick before you even get back onto the circuit at turn 2 as well. Wiebelhaus, number 3, number 1 calendar, number 63, High T's still out there, but they'll be coming in fairly soon, only 4 minutes or so left on the clock. Yeah, I grabbed a quick chat with Mike David Ortman yesterday as well. He's been busy over the winter doing some race engineering out in the Middle East, so he was enjoying learning about the engineering side of things, doing some driver coaching as well. I said, well, that's good for you to be able to see the other side of things from the engineering point of view. It's all good information as a driver to understand that side of things. And he said, yes, he said, and now I understand when race engineers start swearing about how annoying racing drivers are. He said, I completely understand their point of view now, having been on that side of the fence.
Wonderful. And Mike David Ortman, who is a graduate of the Aston Martin, easy for me to say, Racing Drivers Academy, a wonderful academy, and he was the graduate last year. He is a real star in the world of GT3 and GT4 racing, and a very welcome addition here to the ADAC GT Masters. We're looking at Jonas Karklees. We saw him last year making his debut in the ADAC GT Masters. We've seen him over a number of years in the ADAC TCR Germany, so something a bit different here in the GT3 racing. Also looking at the number 35 car, Nico Handke, who has taken over from Chandler Hull. Nico Handke, who we've seen in a GT4. His best result in the ADAC GT4 was a 5th with 5 podiums. So he's also raced for ADAC Motorsport back in 2022, and of course ADAC Motorsport now featuring prominently in the DTM.
Nice clear track ahead for Max Osten. He's just going into turn 7, trying to catch a few cars that have already made their pit stops. Here are the top 2, though. The Mercedes very close together now, just 0.6 of a second apart, as Benjamin Highties sends the Lamborghini into the pit lane. So he's coming in now to hand over to Tim Zimmerman, who won here at Oschersleben last year. Yesterday, though, Tim picked up an early race puncture, but the car was very rapid, as we saw, lap down, but was very much hanging on to the BMW that won the race eventually. So they will be hopeful of a podium, maybe first or second step of the podium, if this pit stop goes well and if they avoid the bad luck that they had yesterday. So Highties comes in and into the shade now that we've got in the mid-afternoon from what's been a very sunny day, warmest day of the weekend so far. It's cooled down a little bit compared to what it was, but still in the early 20s. That's tight getting in there,
yeah,
isn't
well,
it?
it's a fellow Lamborghini teammate in the garage as well. He tried to pull into the box, and there was a car there already, drops in front. There are 5 cars that have yet to pit. They will need to pit this time around because there is 1 minute and 25 seconds of the pit window. They won't be able to get round again if they miss the pit entry this time. So expect to see Finn Wiebelhaus, Tom Callender, Alex Fack, Johannes Kapfinger and Jean-Luc de Oria all into the pits in just a few moments. Benjamin Highties in the pits at the moment. The first car that has already pitted, that is still out on track, is then Max Osten, and he is in 7th place. Looking at some great onboard shots, and that was earlier on when Alex Fack got close to the Lamborghini. The Lamborghini got a black and white flag for that, for forcing car 4 off the track. So car 63, Benjamin Highties, having that black and white flag. They all survived, well, mostly. There's a bit of the car hanging off, and that probably won't help the aerodynamics. Right, leaders into the pits as anticipated. Alex Fack, remember, the number 4 car already down to 65 seconds because of the bronze rating of Alexander Schwarzer. This is where it's going to really pay off. It's going to mean they're stationary for a lot less time, as we see the Lamborghini with Tim Zimmerman now at the wheel, rejoining on the outside of turn 2. Alongside Max Osten, but Max Osten's tyres are nice and hot at the moment. He's been out on track. Can he make it stick? Well, It is the Zimmerman car who gets the position. Max Osten giving him a little helping hand. A little bit of bodywork goes flying, and still Max Osten is not able to work his way past the Lamborghini. So the pit strategy working very well, but car 63 is under investigation for a pit stop infringement. Tim Zimmerman has been watched by the stewards. Now, there's some quite tight regulations for the pit stops. Might have been more people over the wall, might have been Zimmerman coming out of the garage too early, any number of things, but we'll keep an eye on that. He's got a penalty lap, so Tim Zimmerman will need to visit the penalty box. Well, that's a bit of a gift for Max Osten, as we see Elias Seppänen, the defending champion in ADAC GT Masters, coming out of the pits. He's taken over from Tom Callender in the Landgraf Motorsport Mercedes. Behind him, Finn Wiebelhaus has handed over to the way more experienced at the moment, Janis Fitcher. This could be quite exciting.
Could have been that pit lane entrance when the other Lamborghini was in the way as well, so it could have been the way it came into the pits. So it could be Max Osten for a podium here, because he was right on the tail of the Lamborghini anyway, and that was battling for third place. He's got to find a way past it. He has found a way past the number 19 Taylor Hagler car, so he's right on the tail now of the number 91 Porsche of Catfinger, and also the number 14 car of Valente, and there into the pit box goes the Lamborghini. So there you see the BMW. He's right in the mix now, running suddenly in the top 5 once it all sorts itself out. But as for the front runners, it is the number 1 car of Callender, which has got out ahead of the number 3 car of Wiebelhaus. They're just going into turn 10. Then you've got this battle, 3rd, 4th and 5th, with Osten suddenly right up there. He must have a mighty outlap, mustn't he, to be getting in the mix there as he has.
Well, one of the cars in that battle and another one that is not on screen are under investigation. The reason being, well, you can see the red P next to their names in the graphic. Nobody likes red P, because Alexander Schwarzer and Alan Valente both under investigation for going beneath the minimum pit stop time. After examination of the evidence, finally the penalty lap is awarded. Car 14, Alan Valente, the next one to visit the penalty box. That will effectively add 5 seconds onto his lap time. Also, after all that hard work, it is Alexander Schwarzer as well who will have to go into the penalty box. So bad news to them. That's what happened below the minimum pit stop time.
Yeah, and he can only pass the board once, which says penalty lap on the pit wall, so you're going to have to come in on the next lap or you'll receive further penalties. And a stern talking to. Right then, let's keep an eye on this number 54 BMW, although keeping him at bay for now is Michael Catfinger in the bright yellow Usa Porsche. So the driver that was the quickest of all yesterday in that BMW, Max Osten, looking for his 3rd win already in his 2nd weekend of GT Masters. Not sure the win is on the cards, but certainly a 3rd place and a podium finish very much is. Seppänen, though, it was the champion with Salmon Vega last year in that number 1 car. It's going to be hard to dislodge from 1st place. He is leading in the number 1 car. The number 3 Mercedes is about a second back. And then we've got this battle, which will be between Catfinger and Osten for 3rd place. Tim Zimmerman not out of it completely yet either, having got that penalty run, and can still catch them up and pass them with the next 20 more minutes left on the clock.
It's actually Alexander Schwarzer at the moment who's leading, but of course he has got to visit that penalty box. And of course that was as a result of the pit stop being shorter anyway. Well, he decided that 15 seconds wasn't and decided to shorten it even more. But Elias Seppänen is probably going to inherit the lead. Right, here we go, into the penalty box for the race leader. He slows down. Where is Seppänen? Well, he hasn't come yet. Now he is. But a vastly more experienced driver, the silver rates driver, will see Schwarzer just ahead of him and will be looking to dispatch him as soon as possible. So Schwarzer has held on to the lead, albeit briefly. There's a big gap on the inside. Elias Seppänen says, is that a gift? You've wrapped it, you've put a bow on it, I might as well take it. And he does. Into the lead, Elias Seppänen. Schwarzer down into 2nd. Finn Wiebelhaus is not in that car. It's Janis Fischer in third place. He may well be following through shortly as well.
Yeah, Fischer closing, but not close enough to lunge down the inside of the way into turn 11. So the bronze level Porsche driver with his work cut out here, and surely at the start of the next lap, he's going to have to get through here, Fischer. Otherwise, the leading Mercedes is going to be gone. So an important lap here. He's got to try and get through on the Porsche. Otherwise, any chance of winning the race might just be escaping down the road. Here we go then. The Mercedes lines up the Porsche, gets alongside, has got the inside line, clips him on the way past, but he's through and into second place. So after that penalty lap, from first down to third then goes the Porsche of Schwarzer. And in the background, fourth and fifth, Kapfinger and Osten have got plenty of time to catch him up as well. It's going to replay on board with Zeppelin then, as well. That was gifted really, just wide on the way through the right-hander at turn 7, left the door open. It was a bit tighter for the second Mercedes to come through. It was never in doubt though that he was going to go through at that corner.
There's a little kiss there as he goes to turn 1. It was more of a snog really, wasn't it? Into turn 1 and around the hotel turn, just reminding him he's there. Elliot Sepinen though leading the race, the defending champion, one of the defending champions in the ADAC GT Masters Germany. We saw him only 2 or 3 years ago in ADAC Formula 4 Germany, but he has really taken to the GT3 series. This is his 3rd season in ADAC GT Masters. A very rapid driver, Elliot Sepinen, who loves cycling, does miles and miles of cycling in his spare time, and is pedaling that Mercedes beautifully around. He's got space ahead and space behind as he heads out onto the pit straight. He's got 18 minutes and 20 seconds plus 1 lap remaining of this race. Behind him is the number 3 car with Janis Fischer at the wheel. Then Alexander Schwarzer. Now, can Alexander Schwarzer hold on to that podium position? Michael Kapfinger behind has got his own problems. That problem in the shape of a number 54 BMW with Max Osten at the wheel.
Alexander Schwarzer in the white, number 4 Porsche in third place, just did a 1:27.8. 1.5 seconds quicker in fourth place was Michael Kapfinger in the Porsche. However, that lap did involve being overtaken twice, so he was on the back foot a bit there. I think he'll be quicker than that next time around, but there's no doubt about it. He's going to have to dig very deep for the next 17.5 minutes plus 1 lap to keep at bay the flying Porsche of Kapfinger and the BMW that you can see here right behind him of Max Osten. So this is going to be a proper battle now for the final spot on the podium. The gap at the moment, as it stands, is 4.4 seconds, but quite a bit quicker, 7/10 quicker through the first sector alone was Kapfinger than Schwarzer.
You think Max Osten is trying? You see him absolutely hustling that BMW. And if I was going to sit anywhere on this circuit, it would be down at turns 8 and 9, where that chicane is. The car's getting airborne as they don't even bother turning for it. Just straight across they go. Our race leader, Elliot Sepinen, looking pretty comfortable. Janis Fischer in that second place. Still Mercedes first and second. Of course, David Schumacher, who was leading the race for the first portion, has had mechanical problems, has had to retire. Apart from that, everybody else still out on track. The car now at the back is Taylor Hagler, who's taken over from Yannick Julius Bernhardt. But still, we've got 14 cars out on track. Still plenty to play for as we reach the final quarter of this race. Out along the pit straight, Max Osten. No, it's not Max Osten, beg your pardon. That is Eduardo Cosseteng. That's the one you said you've been looking forward to seeing. Well, Eduardo Cosseteng has Simon Conor Prim. He's a driver who doesn't back off for anybody in the number 33 car. Simon Conor Prim, who's taken over from Jonas Greif, and he's got plans of getting past that BMW.
Yeah, Simon Conor Prim was guilty of destroying track furniture yesterday, wasn't he? He wiped out the bollard, who's gone wide just in front. Was it Cosseteng? Cosseteng kicking up the dust, but this is the battle for 10th place for the last 2 laps consecutively, the fastest driver on the track hasn't been one of the absolute front runners. It's been the driver in 6th place, Tim Zimmerman. He set 2 fastest laps. Look at this, Simon Conor-Prim almost alongside the BMW through the apex of that corner. The BMW absolutely dwarfing the Lamborghini. That's him attacking the curves again through turns 8 and 9, the chicane. He's on the money here, Simon Conor-Prim. This is where yesterday Eduardo Cossetane pulled off a couple of really good moves on the way into turn 11. Not usually an overtaking spot. This time he's having to defend, having to look in the mirrors. No doubt about it, Simon Conor-Prim is much quicker at this stage than Eduardo Cossetane, but finding a way past here is not easy. He needs a good run through turn 14 to have a chance on the way into the big braking zone for turn 2. He's glued himself to the back of the BMW, closing up underneath the rear wing. This could be the move for position. He's going to have a go surely if he can just stay with the BMW, but the BMW's got plenty of legs in a straight line, and he actually falls away once they get to top speed, so remains on the tail of Cossetane, who then goes out wide, invitingly leaves the door open, side by side again. The BMW just able to get the traction down on the run to turn 3 to stay ahead.
Brilliant stuff. Now he goes back to the inside. The BMW certainly has the traction and the acceleration out of the corners and down the straights. Simon Conor-Prim appears to have the better handling around the tighter corners, so it'll be at this part of the circuit in towards turns 4, 5 and 6 triple, where he was likely to close in a little bit, but when they get out on the wide open space, it feels like the BMW can pull clear, but going deep into the corner, Simon Conor-Prim able to take a tighter line, but no real opportunities there at the moment. Lining him up out of turn 10 in just a few moments, that will be the opportunity to get past.
Yeah, and this is the battle for 3rd place. The gap was down to 1.2 seconds at the start of the lap. It's down to just a few tenths now, 0.3 of a second on board with Michael Kapfinger, number 91, in 4th place. He's got Max Osten right behind him, yesterday's race winner, and they're both on the attack here. The door opens up on the way through turn 2, the 2 Porsches together, but the white Porsche of Schwarzer just about stays ahead. He's going to sit on the inside line now on the way into the left-hander at turn 3. So around the outside goes Kapfinger, gets the power down, and he's going to do it, is he? Yes, just has to take to the grass, but he's gone through. So up into 3rd place now for Kapfinger.
I like the fact that despite the fact they had a large one on Friday, it's not phasing them at all. Keeping the power on even when you've got a wheel on the grass. But now Schwarzer going deep into the corner, falling prey to Max Osten in the mighty BMW. He goes wide as well, kicks up some dirt and chucks it right in the face of Tim Zimmerman behind him. He doesn't mind about that, does he? But Osten relieving him of that position. This is on board with Michael Kapfinger. He sees the gap on the inside. Schwarzer has the momentum coming out of turn 2, out towards turn 3. It's a bit of a drag race. Porsche versus Porsche, pretty equal, really. There's last of the late breakers, trying to get round the outside. This is where he gets a wheel out onto the dirt, about there, just about keeping it in, and steals the position away. Really, really good stuff between those 2 Porsche drivers, and there in the background, the mighty number 54 Max Osten getting ready to move forward. Simon Conor-Prim still trying to find a route past the BMW. We've been watching that for a couple of laps now, haven't we? So Cossetane in 10th place, Simon Conor-Prim in 11th. What has he got into turn 14? Once again out onto the pit straight, not looking close enough by my reckoning to make an attack into turn 1. He has maybe a little peak, but just behind, trying to stay as close as possible to the car in front.
Yeah, it was a really good move that from Kapfinger, wasn't it, at turn 3? Because he was, once he got kind of alongside coming out of turn 2, he was almost then entirely committed to the outside at turn 3, because otherwise he had to back off and tuck back in, and if he'd done that, he'd have lost probably the place to the BMW of Max Osten. And this is a replay of Zimmerman now making the move on the Porsche. That was always going to happen because he was reeling him in as well, and so Schwarzer loses another, and Tim Zimmerman in the number 63. He moves himself up to 5th place. But a great move from Kapfinger around the outside. Always feels good because it's the longer route. Imagine a running track, you're going around the outside, it's a longer distance to go, and there's always less grip, and you're always more exposed to going into the gravel trap as well. And a replay of this battle here, side by side. BMW, oh, contact there on the run up. Simon Conor-Prim again desperately trying to get past the Eduardo Cossetane BMW, but Simon Conor-Prim has got side-by-side 2 or 3 times, has not quite got through, then oosh, through then this move finally. gets past, not without contact, flings it through the chicane and thinks, finally, I'm not staring at the back of that BMW anymore, and has moved himself up into the top 10.
Feels very much like grunt versus handling, doesn't it? And handling finally wins out. There is Yanis Fitch, the number 3 car, the grey Mercedes, in second place, a little bit behind Elias Seppänen at the moment, about 2.292 seconds, and 6.3 seconds behind is the third place car. Right, incident between Simon Conor-Prim and Eduardo Cossetang under investigation. Well, personally, that's what I came to see. We like a good bit of rub-in-ins racing, but the stewards are going to take a look at that. So we'll let you know if there's anything incoming from the stewarding office.
Right, Elias Seppänen leads the race in the number 1 Mercedes. Last lap, 125.8, 2.2 seconds clear. Couple of tenths quicker, though, was Yanis Fitcher in the number 3 Mercedes. And then quicker than both of them by a tenth with the 125.5 was Catfinger in the Porsche, having been released. And then you've got, of course, still pressing him, Max Osten, who wants to get a second podium of the weekend. So he's there in 4th place. There's 1.6 seconds now, though, look, between the Porsche and the black and white BMW. The one to watch is Tim Zimmermann, just at a 125.2. He remains the quickest driver on the track, and that includes the race leader by a number of tenths of a second. So here he comes now. This is the driver to watch, Tim Zimmermann, looking fantastic at the moment. He's hunting down Max Osten, and this is a replay of the 2 cars that were running 1st and 2nd at the start of the race yesterday.
You will have seen from your graphic that Simon Conor-Prim has had a warning from race control about pushing another car. He's had a black and white flag. It is a warning at this point, so no penalties incoming imminently, but the stewards are watching him. That's the number 33 car that we were seeing earlier on. Seppänen leading the way, 2.3 seconds from Yanis Fitcher. Michael Catfinger, 6.3 seconds behind him. Then Max Osten in 4th place, 1.6 seconds back from Catfinger. Then it's Tim Zimmermann, Alan Valente, who took over from Jean-Luc Deorier, Alexander Schwarzer, Mike David Ortmann in 8th place ahead of Kwanda Mokoena, Simon Conor-Prim, who's been entertaining us all afternoon, in 10th place ahead of Eduardo Cossetang. Then Jonas Karklees and Nico Handke and Taylor Hagler in 14th place.
You got the Aston Martin of Mike David Ortmann as well, potentially about to move up to 7th in the near future. He is absolutely flying after Alexander Schwarzer's Porsche, so the gap flying down between them, 125.8 for Ortmann and 127.0, 1.2 seconds slower for Schwarzer. So the gap's 2.7 seconds, but in probably 2 laps' time, he's going to be right on the tail of the Porsche in the battle for 7th place. Here, though, is the battle that we are about to enjoy, I reckon, between Osten and Zimmermann. This is for 4th place. Osten had one eye on the podium just a couple of laps ago. No, he's going to have to work very hard just to keep 4th place in that BMW, because there is absolutely no doubt Zimmermann is easily the quickest driver on track, and flying, kicking up the dust there on the exit to the turn ahead of them was Catfinger in the Porsche, just getting a bit ragged on the way out of turn 7, and they head now out of turn 10 and onto the back straight.
Tim Zimmermann, who's enjoyed a couple of wins in the past in GT Masters at the Lausitz Ring in 2022, at Hockenheim last year, so he knows how to get that car through the traffic and onto a podium position. But they're a little way back from the 3rd place Catfinger car. Max Osten, a driver who has just impressed with everything that he's done in that BMW, and defend all he's worth at the moment, 6 3/4 minutes. We've got the wisdom and experience of Tim Zimmermann against the youth and vigour of the very tall in the in towards turn 1 again. Osten looks to have the measure of him. It's one thing for Zimmermann to catch him, but he's got to find the route past if he wants to steal that position away. Nothing happened at the moment as they head towards Hasseröder, which is turn 3.
We've already enjoyed one battle between a Lamborghini and a BMW. The BMW seemed to have the edge in a straight line. The Lamborghini, though, is mighty through the corners. That battle previously was for 10th between Eduardo Cossetang's BMW and the Lamborghini of Simon Conor-Prim. Now another Lambo trying to pass another BMW. This is on board with Tim Zimmerman in the Lamborghini, number 63, running in 5th place. The blue and orange machine, watch him through the chicane here, absolutely flings it over the curb. So, in fairness, 2 does Max Osten. Max gets good drive, good acceleration coming out of turn 10 and onto the back straight. That gap widens, doesn't it, quite considerably down that back straight to around about 3 or 4 car lengths. But you watch, by the time they get to the start-finish line, and certainly down at turns 1 and 2, Zimmerman, I think we'll be back with him in the Lamborghini.
The Lamborghini has looked very dialed in here today at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. So out of that turn 14, and as predicted, up with the BMW, but too far back to make the move into turn 1. Just picking up maybe a bit of a slipstream as they run past the pits. In the background is Alan Valente in the Ferrari. We're into the last 5 minutes of this race. 5 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. Can anybody do anything about Elias Seppänen in the lead, because he's got 2.7 seconds on Janus Fitcher. Michael Kapfinger along with Johannes will be looking for their first podium, currently in a fairly solid 3rd place, but 4th place far from all over. Max Osten defending in the BMW from Tim Zimmerman in the Lamborghini. There's first, here's second as a back-marking Audi. And back-marking Aston Martin. Right, here comes 3rd place. And then this, the fight for 4th. Across the chicane. Chicane, what chicane? It's almost a straight, isn't it? Out of turn 10 towards turn 11, but still too far back. Tim Zimmerman not really close enough to do anything about the BMW. And it feels that with just over 4 minutes plus 1 lap remaining, not a lot he can do unless he can press Max Osten into a mistake.
No, you'd think it would be easy, wouldn't it? The way he reeled him in, the way he caught him up, it was that much quicker. Why can't he get past? But the BMW is just quick enough in just the right points of the circuit. The best opportunity to overtake is into turn 2, but you've got to be right on him going over the start-finish line. This is where the BMW just stretches away a little bit at the end of each of the straights. So look, suddenly he's 2 or 3 car lengths back. You can't get through there. There is the Porsche, luminous yellow colour scheme of Kapfinger making its way through turn 2 into the left-hander now at turn 3. Not quite nose to tail anymore between this pair, is it, as they go through in 4th and 5th. Alan Valente in the background is not that far off.
Yeah.
1.6 seconds. If they hold each other up, he might be with them. He was much quicker on the last lap, 125.5, 7 tenths quicker than this battle. So it could be 3 of them battling for 4th place soon. I was just watching him. He'd taken about half a second out of the battle in front of him on the previous lap. He is closing in, so the two-way battle may well become a 3-way battle in a minute. There are just 3 minutes remaining of this race, but he is reeling them in at a rate of knots. And of course, drivers who have looked after their tyres may have a bit more grip at the end of this race, might have something to attack with. And Alan Valente, I wonder if he's thinking about whether he can put the pressure on for 5th place. It would be a bit of an ask with 2 minutes and 40 seconds plus 1 lap remaining. Further back, Alexander Schwarzer has Mike David Orman breathing down his neck. Like David Orman in 8th place, fancies a little look at 7th. That's about as far as he's probably going to get in this race, but it would be valuable points for himself and his co-driver Denis Bulatov in towards turn 14. Once again, now out onto the pit straight, the Aston Martin pulls out. He should, in theory, be able to sail past the Porsche in towards turn 1. Maybe a little bit too far back on this lap. Just over 2 minutes remaining into turn 2. He takes a tighter line into the hotel turn. A nice big gap on the inside. It'll be a drag race towards turn 3, the Hasseröder turn. Now Mike David Ortmann will have the outside line. He'll sweep around the outside of Alexander Schwarzer and relegate him down into 8th place. Yeah, nicely done move. Schwarzer gave him the room as well, even though he's going around the outside. Was fairly respectful there of that. So the Porsche drops another place. Here's a replay of it. He started it off really because I noticed on the way into turn 1, inside curb in that Aston Martin, which allowed him to just take a nicer, neater line into turn 2, whereas a little bit wide through the apex of that corner went the Porsche on board with the Volcanors driver, Mike David Ortmann, 2-time GT4 champion, as he picks up 7th place. So not a bad run at the end of the weekend, but hopefully from their point of view, more to come at other circuits. Background, next two over the line, battling for fourth and fifth. Less than a minute left on the clock though. Plus one lap in this 60-minute race. There's a great view, what it looks to be like inside the cockpit. On board with the race leader, the reigning champion, back with the championship-winning team of Landgraf Motorsport from last year. Elias Seppänen, the Finnish driver. And of course, Tom Callender, his teammate, being the youngest driver in GT Masters, about to become the youngest winner in GT Masters.
Elias Seppänen is as cool as a cucumber. I've never seen him stressed and het up. He just takes it all in his stride, and that's what earns you points, just not allowing the occasion to get to you. Elias Seppänen, the defending champion in the ADAC GT Masters, as the clock strikes 15 seconds plus one lap. So it'll be what remains of this lap, which is about half of it, and then one more lap after that before Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender potentially could become the youngest winner ever in the ADAC. The battle for fourth continues to rage on. It will continue to rage on until the end of this race. Alain Valente's not been able to close in quite enough, but Zimmermann will be aware that if he does do any last lap tactics on the car in front of Max Osten, he may well lose a position to Alain Valente. Into the final lap we come in this race 2 of the season in the GT Masters.
Yeah, Zeppelin's actually extended his advantage over the last couple of laps. So a nice, comfortable 3-second lead over the number 3 HRT, Jonas Fischer-driven Mercedes, and then Kapfinger 8 seconds back, but nearly 4 seconds clear of Osten in third and fourth places, respectively. Not much of a gap back from fourth to fifth, though, still is there, with that blue and orange Tim Zimmermann-driven GRT Lamborghini still pressing on, but that was probably his best chance of the last lap of the race to get through, or was it? Because he closes up again into turn 3 on Max Osten's BMW, but no way through yet.
Out towards turn 4 for the very last time. 4, 5 and 6, the corners that are taken in quick succession, then into the hairpin of turn 7. Our race leader is already around there. He's up and around turn 10 and bombing down the back straight towards turn 11 for the very last time. The battle for fourth place is going to continue to the start-finish line. But here comes our race leader, soon to potentially be a race winner, into turn 13 for the very last time. The defending champion, Elias Seppänen, and the youngest driver ever in ADAC GT Masters win race 2 of the season here at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. Coming across the line is Jonas Fischer and Finn Wiebelhaus for Haupt Racing. And then we wait a little because the Kapfinger twins are going to get a podium after such a difficult time in free practice. A lot of damage to the car. They've come back stronger and a podium on their debut weekend in the ADAC Masters. The fourth place battle used to rage, and it goes the way of Max Osten. He gets fourth. He's held off Tim Zimmermann and Alain Valente. Mike David Ortmann in 7th place ahead of Alexander Schwarzer. We're still waiting for Kwanda Mokoena to come across the line. He and Max Rice will get 9th place, and then it's the very entertaining Simon Connor Prim and Jonas Greif rounding out the top 10. Eduardo Cosseteng and Gregory de Cyborg in 11th place ahead of Jonas Karklees and Pablo Schum, Nico Hanker and Chandler Hull, and then in 14th place Taylor Hagler and Yannick Julius Bernhardt. But the defending champion doing exactly what he wants to do and what he needs to do if he wants to become the first driver ever to successfully defend a GT Masters championship. Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender, 42 laps, top step of the podium. There's the classification. Jonas Fischer, Finn Wiebelhaus, good, strong racing there. And the Kapfinger twins in 3rd place. There's confirmation of the rest of the drivers across the line. The only non-finisher was Salman Vega, the other of the defending champions. And it's certainly looking like a steeper hill to climb for him to get his name on that trophy than it is for Elias Seppänen. And of course, David Schumacher, who was driving the car when he had to retire it from the race. There is the team used by Twin Bush Porsche to give it its correct title with the wonderful picture Freundorfer on the bonnet of it as well, and that was the third place car. Second place, Janis Fitcher in the number 3 with Finn Wiebelhaus, the very, very impressive young pilot that everybody has been talking about over the winter. But the car they need to beat, Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender, taking the win of this race for Landgraf Motorsport, the legendary team in the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. So really good stuff here from the ADAC GT Masters. The first races of the season, another 10 to go, so it's a long way to go. But Elias Seppänen must be starting to wonder whether it is possible to defend that title. It's got to be entering his head, hasn't it? Now into Parc Fermé they come. Out of the car will climb Elias Seppänen, and he jumps up to celebrate as he takes his 5th win, just counting it, in the ADAC GT Masters. He took 4 wins last year on his way to becoming champion, so his 5th win here at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. So lots of congratulations from the Landgraf team, a legendary team who prepared that car. But a lot of hard work done by Tom Callender, and what a talent is Tom Callender. The youngest driver ever to compete in the ADAC GT Masters. And there is Johannes Kapfinger for his brother to come and give him a celebratory hug. The 2 drivers have done a wonderful job together, and I still can't tell which one's which. I'm pleased they got their names on the front, but great combination of drivers. They've been so excited for this weekend. Their social media has been effectively counting down. What did I say about Elias Seppänen just being as cool as a cucumber? You'd think he'd just been down the shops to buy a loaf of bread, wouldn't you? Just relaxed and laid back. And Janis Fitcher along with Finn Wiebelhaus, also a fairly chilled drive for them. And just looking at the Powell Motorsport sponsorship on the helmet of Janis Fitcher, so another legendary team in the world of German GT3 racing.
Yeah, and of course, with a second place finish and a win today, that means that Seppänen and Callender will walk away for the first weekend of the season as the championship leaders. A win yesterday, but only a 4th today for Leon Kohler and Max Osten. Still a great start for them as well. And that gap from 4th to 6th as they crossed the line was just 0.8 of a second. Alan Valente almost caught them up, didn't he, in that battle that we saw between the BMW and the Lamborghini. Not bad, 0.8 of a second covering 3 cars after 40-odd laps of racing, 60-odd minutes of racing. There, though, are very happy, cool customers. He knows what it takes to win a championship. He showed it last year with a different driving partner, but with his new driving partner, he's in a familiar position. 7 points clear, Brian, at the top of the charts, but a long, long way to go this season.
Yes, and it's already shaping up to be a wonderful championship battle. Leon Kohler, Max Osten just 7 points adrift, and then Finn Wiebelhaus and Janis Fitcher in that 3rd place. The Kapfinger twins have very high hopes as well. 21 points adrift in 4th place. We're going to be reconvening in the Netherlands in a few weeks' time as we look at the rest of the points scrolling through. Quando Mocoeno and Max Rice, that's effectively a race win behind, but still plenty of time to go. Still another 10 races in this season, and it will be Zandvoort in the Netherlands at the beginning of June where we regather for the next sprint race. A very different beast to the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. The big bankings of turns 3 and the final turn. The cars are really carrying some speed out of there onto the straight out of that final turn. A very, very different beast to tame, and the GT Masters will be very entertaining there for round 2. There's Taylor Hagler just walking back to the pit area as well. She has come a long way to be here, all the way from the USA to be precise, so a long trip to be here. Some great experience as well. Great that her teammate Yannick Julius Bernhardt finally got a drive, his first drive this afternoon in the ADAC GT Masters. Of course, she had to retire in the early stages of the race yesterday.
Yeah, with a technical issue, didn't get too far into the race. So good running experience today with a full stint in that one, learning, of course, all of the circuits as well as the car. So it's a tall order in a very competitive field, but improvements will come, no doubt, as the 2024 season continues on. But really interesting race. That's some great battles. Lamborghinis versus Porsches was versus BMWs rather was the tail of that race, but of course there'll be some disappointed drivers out there that walk away with the weekend with nowhere near the points they feel they should probably have got. David Schumacher and Salman Avega certainly amongst them after retiring effectively from the lead of the race at mid-distance. And also you would say Tim Zimmerman and Ben Heites are way down on points that compared to what they should have got, because they have been mega quick all weekend long, haven't they? They're still looking for their first podium of the season.
Yes, it certainly doesn't reflect their pace, does it? And of course, all the drivers who are under aged 25, and there's 27 of those registered in the series this year, are in the fight for the road to DTM, an additional championship that is being laid on by the ADAC this year. The winner of the Road to DTM Championship will receive significant funding towards a DTM drive. As part of the ADAC Road to DTM ladder, you've got the DKM, the German kart series, you've got GT4, ADAC GT4, the GT Masters, and the golden chalice, would you say, of DTM. Many of the drivers would love to be there, and we may well see one of these pilots in DTM in 2025. But a long way to go yet. A lot of racing still to come. It is a sprint weekend at Zandvoort next time out in June, but then after that, we're into the endurance season, and that's going to be an interesting prospect in itself. And already mentioned at the top of the show, the return to the mighty Spa-Francorchamps, and I can't wait to see these drivers flat out through Eau Rouge and to Raidillon in Spa-Francorchamps in the Ardennes forest. That'll be wonderful. So there's the Johannes twins, one set of two twins. The first time ever in GT Masters we had two sets of identical twins. There's a bit of useless trivia, although having said that, the Holzums, who were due to be taking part this weekend, had to withdraw a big crash in qualifying yesterday for Sandra Holzum, the Land Motorsport Audi, and great to have Land Motorsport back on the grid. At least we will have when we return at Zandvoort in June, but the car was beyond repair for this weekend. So I'm guessing they're probably speaking to each other in their native language. So I'm not even going to bother. Mike, you can speak German. You can tell us what they're saying, can't you?
Only badly, can't you? I did notice they were investigating the scuff marks on the front of that lovely Porsche. I'll have to polish that out ahead of the next round.
So being introduced by Toby Simon on to the podium. Michael and Johannes capping it onto the third step. The two brothers. Finn Wiebelhaus and Janus Fitcher Wiebelhaus. A real, genuine threat for the championship this year, even though it's his first year in GT3 racing. But the defending champion, Elias Seppänen, and the youngest driver on the grid, Tom Callender, take the top step of the podium for Landgraf Motorsport. And Landgraf will also get a trophy for their trouble. The Pro-Am partnership of Alex Fack and Alexander Schwarzer. They get the Pro-Am trophy. And they jump onto the podium as well. And then here come from Landgraf Motorsport onto the podium to receive a trophy for the team. So for all of that, it's time for the national anthem.
Einen großen Applaus.
Well, we're doing better than the Porsche 6 Carrera Cup Germany race earlier. We couldn't find the national anthem, so we had Larry Tenforder singing the Dutch national anthem, and nobody wants to hear that. The trophy presentation is about to start for our winning drivers. Some lovely trophies for the top step of the podium drivers. And lovely outline of the track as well. Like they don't know it like the back of their hand already. Several trophies on the Wiebelhaus cabinet already. And Janis Fitcher, he's got a fair few trophies from over the years. Another one to add. The cat fingers. Always worth following on social media because they post lots of news and excitement about what they're doing. Team Alexander for FAC Orcotec receiving the Pro-Am Trophy Championships trophies. And Landgraf, as the winning team, receive their trophy as well. So we'll have a quick moment for the photographs. An awful lot of people on the podium. And I think Landgraf are trying to get a jump start with the bottle there. One of the stewards looking at that. So photos taken. Anyone who's got any sense at all now will exit stage left and hide round the back. That's exactly what the FAC Orcotec guys have done. The rest of them know the champagne has started and the celebrations that can continue into the night. You have witnessed this weekend the opening round of the new era of the ADAC GT Masters, the 18th season of this legendary championship, the League of Super Sports Cars. We've got a few weeks off now, but we're going to be heading to the Netherlands, to Zandvoort, on the 7th to the 9th of June for round 2, where we get to do it all again. We've been promised there may be some guest starters as well as this season progresses. See all these runners and riders back out again in the mighty GT3 cars. Who can catch Elias Seppänen and Tom Callender, as Elias Seppänen looks to become the first driver ever to successfully defend a GT Masters title. It has been the ADAC GT Masters 2024 round 1. We'll see you at the beginning of June for round 2. Bye-bye. Season of ADAC GT Masters. Brilliant driving